Hi, Ben and Bob from Clemenger. Once again, this is our day 5 wrap-up. We've had just 5 days of just taking it all in South by Southwest, and we're just sort of bringing this all together, I guess, and looking forward to kind of presenting it back to everybody. But today, I guess what we're sort of seeing is that interactive is finishing, music is starting. We're just outside of Antoine's, the home of blues here. We've got people walking around, sort of holding guitar cases and carrying amplifiers. All the sort of tech kind of companies are sort of shutting down.
Yeah, the nerds are departing and the cool kids are coming in.
Absolutely, the age has dropped by 15 years. Everyone's got 150% cooler. But we're still here. We've seen some great things. One of the best things I saw today, Bob, was Kevin Kelly, who is a futurist. He's one of the founders of Wired magazine, and he was sort of talking about a lot of the technologies that are trending here. Particularly wonderful things to say. What he said that resonated really with me was he talked about that we're at the beginning of the beginning, and he used virtual reality as an example. Like at the moment, you can buy a virtual reality headset. You can buy an Oculus Rift or a Samsung Gear in Best Buy, which is like America's JB Hi-Fi. And the fact that that's never going to disappear off the shelf. It's actually going to become something that finds its way into our lives. And he sort of hypothesized that we've gone from the internet of information, which is what we have now, and he sort of reckons that we're going to enter the internet of experiences. That's going to be us actually sharing and videoing what we're doing, and be able to kind of immerse other people in the environments that we're sort of talking about. And it sounds like a really interesting and some sort of compelling kind of look at the future, and how those experiences are going to eventually kind of normalize and sort of become a part of our lives.
Yeah, I think VR has been a big kind of factor in South by Southwest this year. It's been mentioned a lot in the press, but for me, it's still 1 or 2 steps to go, right? So it's good, and it's getting better, but we still need to find a way to get ideas within virtual reality so that people can really immerse themselves and understand it. Rather than just sharing experiences, they need to be experiences that make them feel. Right, and for me, there was no more bigger session today that made me feel. Was I actually went to an amazing session on how to fight ISIS and without breaking the internet. And there were a bunch of really, really smart people there who are working in public policy, talking about how they fight the dominance of ISIS on social media. What was interesting was, while not directly related to brands, there was a really interesting insight that came out of it. There was a UK kid who was producing anti-ISIS sentiments in video in a really cool and interesting way that resonated with Muslim youth. But then the government noticed it, and they actually picked it up in the press, and they actually pointed this kid out as an amazing, anti-ISIS voice. As soon as they did that, his message lost all value and lost all impact. And I think that's what's a really interesting thing for brands, is that when we do social activities that start to take off, don't be too quick to claim credit. Let the organic nature of what you're doing grow, and then reap the benefits later. Because what they said was, in the fight against ISIS, we need really authentic messages, and if it comes from the government, it doesn't work. We need people on the ground doing it. And I think the same is working for brands at the moment within Australia and New Zealand.
Absolutely. I think that reflects in some of the things I saw earlier in the festival. I saw the shape of sort of social movements, and talked about that. Like often the shape of things, like companies and brands, they need to open up and let people in, and let people kind of decide what should be happening, what shouldn't be. And that's almost an analogy of what South by Southwest really is. It's a whole bunch of people together, discussing things. Like some of those valuable things don't happen in the sessions, they happen inside the chats you're sort of having.
Yeah, correct.
And opening stuff up is really important. I saw an example of that, which is the Capital One Bank in the US has opened up their API, their application programming interfaces of customer information, to allow it to build new and more relevant products. They've got that thing called Swift ID, which has been done by an outside kind of company, which allows basically people to approve kind of payments really quickly using their Thumb ID on the iOS network, as well as doing other products like Group Loop, an ability for people to get together and actually sort of collectively kind of chip in for things and sort of save for things. That could be a holiday. And again, these really practical things that haven't come from inside the company itself, but they come from outside, because they've opened up the information very carefully, I might add, because of course they're dealing with some very sensitive information. Yep. And that was Scott, who I was chatting with, was talking about that, and sort of that's one of the very very essential kind of things to doing that, doing that kind of area. Yeah, but again, it's interesting. Well, we all need to be a little bit more open, but at the same time kind of work out ways we can do that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big themes that came through today, which was the connection to people. and brands connection to people. So I actually went to a really great session on smarter cities, how New York City and San Francisco are trying to design their infrastructure around being more connected to the web and also more connected to the people. Spoke a lot about stuff about, just making the trains run on time and traffic flow and things like that, which are quite interesting. But for me, what was really fascinating was how they can actually track cultural movements within a city. They gave an example of out-of-home advertising and how that can actually be connected to a neighborhood. So they gave an example of a brand doing an activation with Spotify where they could actually pick up what the playlist of a neighborhood was. But they saw the cultural phenomenon in New York City when David Bowie died, that basically while all the neighborhoods were diverse, and the day before he passed, they were all musically or lyrically completely different. Within 24 hours, every neighborhood in New York had bandied around the passing of David Bowie, and every single out-of-home unit had David Bowie tracks as the number one. And I think, it's an interesting kind of place where we can use cultural movements and also people and data to produce really amazing stories.
Absolutely. I mean, that's like a very general thing I'm sort of seeing this year. That's about, it's not what technology can and can't do. It's what people will and won't do. I think we're in a moment where, not all these technologies are being sort of, adopted in mass, but, some of them will. And I think it's a lot of people talking about that and a lot talking about the shape of how that might come to be. And I guess, it'll be part of our jobs to sort of see, where those points of relevance, how to find those interesting sort of stories, how to listen to people and reflect that kind of back at them.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly one of the people that adopted stuff. So I spent my day kind of looking at the latest tech, picking up some stuff that we can bring back to Australia. And that's one of the greatest things about South by Southwest is the access to technology. So my role is a head of creative technology, so I was able to pick up an on-the-fly 360 camera today, so you don't need 6 GoPros to do it. I was able to pick up some things that we can program Internet of Things devices with JavaScript. So just being here and having access to some of the people that are producing technology that allowed us to make not only new content but also new things has been really, really valuable.
It has been, and also even those contexts like the trade show, you see the things that are getting people's attention and kind of turning them on, and there is a great value in sort of seeing that because you're seeing it live. You're seeing a lot of the stuff you see is very tactile. You get to sort of touch it, you get to feel it, you get to see what it does, and we're going to bring back a whole bunch of that stuff when we come back to Australia, and we get a little bit deeper into the things we've seen today.
Yeah, but this is our last day at South by Southwest, and from a Clemenger group perspective, I think that we've learned a lot, and we hope to bring back a lot of learnings not only to our clients and also to the market in Australia. So
absolutely. So this has been Ben and Bob, last day at South by Southwest.
Signing off.
See you soon.